Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network.
Hey, welcome back, everybody. Every time we get together with her, we always talk about the latest diets, the latest fads, what you should be eating, what you shouldn't be eating, how to make yourself healthier. And that's because she's a licensed dietitian, clinical nutritionist, health coach, and she knows everything about keto. Tell you that. She's back with us. Kristina Hess is here. Welcome. How you doing, Kristina?
Good to see you, Steve.
You too. You too. I don't know where to begin. You're on a new diet, aren't you?
Well, I'm doing what's called a reverse diet, and actually something that the bodybuilders call a bulk or a build. So, never in my life have I either tracked my food properly, really, really tracked quantity, never. And I've never really been on a proper strength training, really serious strength training program. I've always been very active. But what I found was happening for me was that my weight was okay. It was fine, but my body composition wasn't great. It was just feeling soft, really soft. Like, what's going on? The soft middle. I'm a perimenopausal woman. I'm just getting softer. Seems like hanging on to that number on the scale is getting a little bit harder. I see things like creep up, and then I have to really pull a hard lever and maybe do more fasting, or just go down to one meal a day. So I was doing a lot of that. And after years of doing anything for a period of time, your body adapts to it. So I held a nutrition conference a few months back, and one of my speakers is a bodybuilder. He's a low carb bodybuilder. His name is Robert Sykes, the keto savage. And I was talking to him about this, saying, my weight, it's like I've sustained the same weight, but I look worse and worse every year. Like, how is this? What's going on? Like, it's like I'm getting fatter, but I'm the same weight on the scale. And so he said, well, I bet you've been in a caloric deficit for years, and your body's pared down the muscle. And if you're not strength training, you're not building anything, you're not giving your body any new materials to be better. And what we do in bodybuilding is we do these periods of building and then cutting back down, so that every year you're actually getting better, not worse. And like a light bulb just went off for me. I said, okay, I'm gonna try this. And so he's been guiding me to do a proper, step-by-step reverse diet. Because you just jump up to, eating more, then you just gain a whole bunch of body fat. So very slowly, increments up, just to get those calories. Also, that's not something I ever really focused on, was actually like calories. It was just, okay, eat this, not that. You have this condition, take this out. This is allergenic, etc. So it's totally a different mindset, totally different approach. So I'm like strength training 6 days a week. I started with 2 days a week. Now I've gotten my recoveries better. But eating more food, wow. I'm eating a lot more food than I was. So definitely seeing the scale go up, it's a bit of a mental, it's definitely weird, but the goal is really to be patient and consistent with building the muscle, so that you're building a good house. I know how to lose weight. I know how to teach other people to do that really well, but this like patience with building and actually being okay and comfortable with watching the scale go up is something I've never been used to before. So it made a lot of sense.
Totally got you on that. And so I wonder, let's say you were at a certain weight and you gained weight. Let's say you put on like 15 pounds, but you definitely want to build mass. Gym is on your radar. You'd be okay, building some muscle, whatever it might be. Would you, if you're higher than the weight you want to be at, would it make sense to diet or just jump into working out.
It would actually probably at that point, the person has naturally started eating more, right? So they're doing an inadvertent bulk, or they're going back up to not just maintenance, but a slight surplus. And at that, if they're eating, and at least they're eating high quality food, mostly protein, then they're giving the body good materials to build the muscle. But you'd have to actually actively go to the gym and get on a good strength training program to make use of it, because for us ladies, we build muscle very, very slowly, maybe up to a pound a month. Whereas a man has a potential to build a pound to 4 pounds a month. I think I talked about that with you last time.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's a big difference. And we can lose fat, about, pound a week. So the rate is completely different. So when you're in a build phase, you're definitely going to gain some fat while you're aiming to build the muscle, because you're eating more than you're expending. But boy, I tell you, your energy goes up, and yeah, you just have a lot more. And I think also a lot of folks are suffering from poor thyroid and things, just from just constant under eating or constant dieting. So it downregulates thyroid big time.
Kristina, would you say that you weren't eating enough and that's why you kicked it up? But to make sure that you don't go crazy numbers in terms of your weight, that's why you're working out and bulking up that way.
Yeah, so I definitely was. So everyone has sort of a natural caloric maintenance number that keeps them at a steady weight. And everyone's different. You can get it tested in a center where they do RMR testing. They might, put a mask on you, test your oxygen and CO2, and really tell you ideally how much you burn. But there are lots of online calculators for this, and we all have our own sort of basal metabolic rate. That's sort of the cost of keeping the lights on, right? Like just helping your organ systems run, and you never want to eat below that. But a lot of ladies will go down to 1,200, 1,100, 1,000 calories, and do that so consistently in an effort to stay smaller, that they're just tanking all their systems, and that's not a good floor. That is where, those bikini competitors, they get down to that right before they get on stage, and they look the way they do because they've built the house with having some muscle under that. So that's not sustainable to eat 1,000 calories a day.
What are some numbers? Let's talk about that, because it's almost like a moving target. I've always heard.
It is.
Yeah. So where are we at now?
I mean, that's the thing, is that, again, you gotta dial in your own numbers. I would encourage someone to maybe, if they're a man and they're an active man, you could just go and calculate your BMR with an online calculator, and then you multiply by your activity level. So if you're kind of sedentary, you'd multiply by 1.3. If you're a little more active, 1.5. And it gets you somewhere, if you're a man, somewhere between, say, like 2,900 and 3,000 calories for maintenance if you're active. If you need to lose, you would just dial down maybe by just 10%.
Wow.
Not a huge, big, more than 20. They say don't go more than 20% lower than your maintenance, or else it's too aggressive of a cut and not sustainable, and you won't feel good. Your energy plummets. You get weaker. So it's very personalized, though. Everybody's a little bit different, and if you have more muscle, you are now burning more calories while you're just sitting, while you're doing absolutely nothing. So if you're the kind of person who feels like they have to do like an hour of running every single day you could be building the muscle and burn the same amount just by sitting all day. Like they say that having the muscle is equivalent of like 90 minutes of cardio. And I always heard another very interesting, crazy thing on someone else's podcast, which is so mortality rates with being lack of strength. This is very interesting. So smoking has a hazard ratio of 2.0. So that the hazard ratio means you're twice as likely to die if you smoke. Okay. But the hazard ratio for not being strong is 3.3. So because when you take away sort of diseases that are developed by the elderly, 80% of people will develop either cancer, dementia, Alzheimer's, non-alcoholic fatty liver, diabetes. These are the big ones that most people get. But not factoring that, the risk of falling and then dying from your fall, like breaking a hip, and then the decline is very rapid. That's accidental death. The hazard ratio is 3.3. That is very high. That puts you same category as something like kidney failure.
Whoa. Like another reason why you should work out, stay fit as you even get older. When you say strength, how do you define that?
And I'm not a trainer, or I didn't study exercise science, but I'm acquiring more knowledge in this area, and I encourage people listening to go seek out expertise on this. But there are different tests. So things like being able to get up off the floor without your hands, being able to pick up, say, 30 pounds and put it over your head as if you were putting luggage in an overhead compartment, or if you were if you're a grandparent trying to pick up a grandchild. Things like movements like this, we call them functional movements, so that you can have both range of motion, flexibility, strength, some grip strength, things like this. So it's not about being able to bench press, 300 pounds. It's what are you going to be your daily activities that you can do to keep from also, keep your balance and keep from falling down.
Like basic mobility in many regards. And I think there was a test also that came out a few years ago. I don't remember it exactly, but basically it was your balance on one leg.
Yes.
And you're more likely, if you can't balance for 15 seconds, again, just throwing a number out there, on one leg, you're X times more likely to die than somebody else. So I think it's kind of in line with that. And wow, that's an eye opener there for sure. I would never even think that the multiplier is higher than smoking.
Right. Well, that's probably the genesis of the whole sitting is the new smoking idea. Figure.
Would it be safe to say that, okay, so that you don't have the strength, the mobility, then you smoke. So are we taking that 3.5 or whatever it was plus the 2.2, and does it, wow.
Yeah, well, they probably go together, or they can go together.
Scary.
Yeah. So everybody out there, start lifting some kind of weight, doing some
do something. Real, like literally move, do something, because it's that's impactful. And it just stands to reason as you get older, object at rest remains at rest. And a lot of people say, I'm going to take it easy, I'm not going to move around that much, I'm going to stay on the couch a bit longer. But I find myself as I get older, if I lay in bed, which is rare, I'm always moving, but Sunday morning, I'm going to stay in bed in like an extra half hour. It's like just getting out takes longer because you haven't. So I can imagine if you're not mobile, how much longer it takes you to do a lot of other stuff. So good to know. want to ask you, I know that people that help other people, uh, even in your line of work, healers, all of that, have a thirst for knowledge. They're always studying, they're always working on stuff. Are you working on anything, learning anything new?
Oh, yes, thanks for asking. I just started a new certification on something called RBTI, and what it stands for is the Reams Biological Theory of Ionization. It's a mouthful. So it so Carrie Reams was a contemporary of Albert Einstein, and all the work that Einstein did in quantum physics, like E equals mc squared, Ream said, we gotta like you gotta figure this out for biological systems. And Einstein turned to him and said, no, you're gonna figure that out. So he was a mathematician and a scientist. And basically this biological theory of ionization work is studied by students in agriculture and also marine biologists,
Hmm.
because uh, in agriculture, you need to understand the soil and the pH of the soil and the nutrients in the soil so that crops will actually grow. And you need to understand the chemistry, the right uh, chemistry of for marine life to sustain their life. So those folks study RBTI extensively, and what's interesting about RBTI for humans is that there are numbers. So you test the salivary pH and the urinary pH, and then you put those things through something called a refractometer, and you can see ratios. So the idea is that you can bring a body back into perfect balance by having the right numbers according to our BTI.
Wow.
Yeah.
Interesting. So how are you going to apply that moving forward with the certification?
Yeah, so for the folks that I see in person, I'll be able to test them in person. And for the folks that are interested in implementing this with me virtually, they can have a home kit, and
Hmm.
there's an app, and they can test themselves. I'll teach them how to test themselves on a daily basis, and they can test their families. They can use it, every single day if they want to, and I can coach them through
Wow.
utilizing this as a system to bring their health back into balance. Because Carrie Reams actually calls it perfect health, back to perfect, which is, you don't hear that, but there are, according to him, perfect numbers. And I believe it. I believe it. I'm trusting it because, when you think about growing crops and keeping marine life, I always think about, like, when I go to an aquarium, I'm like, wow, there's all these things that are alive in here, and there are people that know how to keep these systems alive. It's
My friend is a marine biologist and a pretty high level one. He's a teacher, school on Long Island, and he was the senior aquatist or aquarist. I never know which one that is at the aquarium on Long Island. And I learned so much from him. I'm going to ask him about this.
ask him. Yeah.
It's RBTI.
I Right. Ream's biological theory of ionization.
Yeah,
It's
he's
all about,
deep.
it's really about pH and nutrients.
Hmm.
So, um,
Yeah, and
uh,
pH aside from, our bodies being so important, same thing with the pH level in any fish tank. Critical.
exactly. It's critical. It's critical. And, which leads me to think about, just, yeah, pH balance, period, in the human body is very, very important. And we have different pH in different parts of our body.
Hmm.
But what's interesting about studying RBTI is not just saying, oh, okay, yes, this number is high or low, but exactly what should I eat? What should I do to bring this number into balance. And studying this apparently will tell me exactly that.
Wow.
So yeah,
And that's it. You take those, somebody would do that test, the saliva and urine test on a daily basis.
absolutely. If they wanted to, they could test multiple times a day if they wanted to.
Wow. Wow.
Yeah.
Hmm.
And it'll be regardless of protocol you choose, which is something that I wondered about. So me as a person who prefers low carb, but maybe someone else really doesn't eat that way, it doesn't matter. Can work with whatever kind of dietary protocol
Wow.
they like.
So I want to go back to your reverse diet.
Yeah.
What are you having for dinner?
Uh-huh. So I'm eating a lot of actually steak these days. But it's a lot of eggs and steak. That's the other thing that uh the bodybuilder that trained Arnold Schwarzenegger and Lou Ferrigno way back when he's the celebrity, Vince Gironda, his uh dietary protocol for these guys was steak and eggs. So I'm eating a lot of that these days. I have
Mm.
yogurt, I have vegetables. But yeah, I have salmon. I love salmon. I probably eat salmon a couple times a week. I bought some cod. But tonight I'm having steak.
Mm.
That's on my menu.
Okay. Well, sides.
Oh, sides. I have asparagus, I have zucchini. I roast those up in the oven, 375, olive oil, salt. I'll sprinkle a little Parmesan cheese on that. And that's what I do. But the steak is like, it's hearty.
Oh yeah, yeah. I sometimes do once a week with a steak. Maybe I'll skip a week, but yeah, kind of look forward to it.
Sometimes
So,
I like to add cauliflower rice to it just to make me feel like I'm having a starch.
so you definitely, in doing this reverse diet, you're keeping it low carb, relatively.
I am tracking, and I'm around most days around 50 grams of carb. Uh,
Okay.
so
Hmm.
that works really well for me. Not ultra low carb, but for me, because I've been doing low carb for so long, I am in ketosis. I've been testing myself, not every single day, but I am in ketosis today, as it happens. And there's some days I've gone up to 100 grams of carb just because I wanted to.
hmm Yeah, and then sometimes you need a treat as well. I have one question for you, and we're just about out of time, but you said olive oil. Somebody told me very recently that it can be health wise beneficial to have 3 teaspoons of olive oil every day.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I don't know what's special about that number, if there's like a study that the person read, that your friend read, but absolutely olive oil is, as a monounsaturated fat is so good for us.
Hmm.
And we have essential fatty acids, we have essential amino acids. Those are the building blocks for us. And so you need to have good fats. The bad fats to stay away from are those refined oils, those seed oils. They oxidize in our body. I know we
Mm.
talked about that before, but those are the ones to avoid. So yeah, stick with the good ones, stick with avocado, olive. Um, I am okay genetically with the saturated fats. Like I'm okay with the butter. I tolerate the saturated fats just fine.
He said butter as well. He said the same
Yeah.
exact thing. Yeah. And isn't it funny? Uh, yeah, call it 10 years ago, 15, whatever. It was all
Yes.
to get off butter. Don't touch butter. Then it was the butter substitute that you should be using. And then it
Ooh,
came out, don't do the butter substitute. It's bad. It's all chemical. Back to the butter. And now it's guilt free. Like we used to always have this guilt putting butter on things, but
yeah.
apparently it's okay for you.
I like that grass fed, pasture raised cow. Yeah, it's good butter
Wow.
and has good fatty acids for you. And just, people think, oh, those fats are bad for your heart. Where your heart prefers it, the heart runs on fat. So you can Google it, folks. The heart runs on fatty acids, primarily, not glucose. So you have to put good fats in your body to have a healthy heart.
Oh, look at it this way. Your car engine needs fuel, food, and it's got oil. So
Yes.
kind of
Yes.
the
Indeed.
same thing. Keep things lubricated as well. And you know what, to his point with the 3 teaspoons of olive oil, your digestive system, you'll have less brain fog, and things will move well, if you will, just by doing that. So
Totally. And when folks avoid fat, like we did back in the 80s, 90s, you're not stimulating bile, and then that ends up sort of down regulating too, where it's not helping you actually digest your food well later.
Yeah.
And you form gallstones and all that stuff.
You convinced me. I'll be eating a steak when you're eating one later.
Awesome.
For sure. It. What's up? What's your website?
www.thriveresultscoaching.com. And then for those interested in low carb or keto, you can find me at www.theketonutritionist.com.
So much great advice, great tips. Sometimes hard for us to put it all together. So that's why you come into play with a plan to get healthy. And you're always on the pulse of everything when it comes to nutrition. And I appreciate that. Yeah.
I try.
Yep. Thank you so much, Kristina. And we'll talk soon. Okay.
Take care, Steve. Thank you.
Are you looking for even more of the podcasts and hosts that you love? The Podcast Business News Network is proud to announce that you now have even more ways to listen live. Check out the MyTuner Radio, online radio box, and Simple Radio apps on iOS and Android, or find us online. Search for Business News Network on mytuner-radio.com, or search Podcast Business News Network on streama.com and onlineradiobox.com/US. Take your podcast on the go and don't miss a minute of the action.
Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network.
For nearly 2,000 severely injured veterans, everyday life has become filled with barriers.
Day-to-day simple tasks can become pretty daunting.
I have to carry my chair up 2 flights of steps or have somebody do it for me.
What scares me the most is just the falling.
When I'm struggling with my house, I think, to have that one great barrier just knocked down, I mean, it's crucial.
Home for Our Troops is a wonderful nonprofit that builds a
mortgage-free, fully adaptive, handicap-accessible house. And there's no catch.
It'll be our very first home that we've ever owned. This is a game changer.
This is where your life begins again.
We need you to join us in completing this important mission. Please visit hfotusa.org and help build homes and rebuild lives.
Because of you, everything's going to be okay.